why I'm doing this right here. I'm trying to tell you that we as a people need to come together, whether you believe this, that, or the third. But we can't come together if you definitely believe that I'm the reason that you having problems. If you believe that because I don't believe what you believe that I deserve to go to hell, you can't truly respect me. If you believe that a spiritual being can speak to you and tell you that death is correct, how can I trust you? If your doctrine is undergirded by the fact that you are supposed to be, by doctrine, supposed to be enslaved. Like that's what you're supposed to be. From the beginning of time, according to the doctrine, it's telling you that there's no way you can do anything. Slave, obey thy earthly master as you would according to, as if it was the spiritual deity. Remain in your position humbly. You must be crazy if you want to get from under this spiritual doctrine. What are you talking about? When the sister said, where are you leading me? Where can it be leading you? If the doctrine tells you, slave, obey thy earthly master, the moment you talk about freedom from the slavery, you are not obeying thy earthly master. Therefore, you are disobeying the doctrine. Where is liberation? Where's the path to liberation in that? Don't answer. Don't answer. When we say, where are you leading me? The reason I'm having this discussion is to show people that you should not use a doctrine that's wholly unproven, right? And hold it over people in all reality as if you are then better than those people, because they don't believe what you believe. Now, you may not say that, but in reality, what are you saying? I had a conversation with a brother recently talking about the Negroes and the Hamites and the Israelites. The difference between the Hamites and the Israelites. Brother Pastor kept mentioning the fact that Canaan was a descendant of Ham, right? Now, if everything was cool and all doctrines were side by side, it wouldn't matter. But in reality, and I'm talking about personal experience now, me as someone who represents African culture, when I go to someone who does not, and I say, let's link up and build something, then they point to scripture and say, I can't because you are a Hamite and we are unequally yoked. I have a problem with that. Especially when I know you don't really believe it. Now, it's ways to find out if somebody really believes something. I told Brother Judah today I was a little tired, a little out of it, so my nice is a little bit not necessarily here today. So we're about to go through it. Because like I told the one brother, like, present company excluded, I told the brother that honestly, religion is the worst thing that happened to black people in the history of our race, period. I showed you all this image here. The trade routes, you know what I'm saying, from West Africa to North Africa to over there to the happy place, the chosen place, right? These people over here were smelting iron in 4000 BC. Before these people was over here even born talking about there's a flood or you know what I'm saying? The story is mythology. We have to understand that mythology is why we can't tell you nothing about ancient Ouagadougou. We should be able to tell you what's on those walls. If cultures can coexist and should coexist, not only should we be able to tell you about that, the people who follow the religion that caused those things to not be there should also want it back. If coexistence is okay. But like I said, people have told me, no, bro, just the fact that you believe something different, we can't do that. And the history of our people show that the first invaders of West Africa believed in Islam, which believed in Jesus, Christianity, which believed in the Talmud. They call them the people of the book. They said because they're the last scripture, by the way. Islam is the last scripture because the people of the book messed it up. That's why even Islam is even a thing. Remember the whole Ishmael and Isaac thing? They're the descendants of Ishmael. Because technically, remember, Ishmael was supposed to get the blessing, right?
That's what they teach.
Is that what the book say? No? Didn't somebody trick somebody to get a blessing from somebody?
Yeah, it's a little bit more to it. No, it doesn't say that exactly.
Well, never mind. Yeah,
it was supposed to go to the youngest. Supposed to go to the one that came out afterwards.
Okay.
Jacob, grabbed him by the heel.
All right, so let's just deal with this then. So the brethren last week said, God does create evil. He don't create you to do evil. Now that's a little semantic. God creates evil, but he does not create you to do evil.
Like a broken leg is evil. You hurt, that hurts, that's evil.
Say again?
A broken leg, that's evil when it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Aging is evil, but he didn't create you to do evil to one another.
Right. Okay, so right here it says, I form the light, I create darkness. I make peace and do what? Okay. And who does all these things? The Lord. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and who not do it? So that means anything that gets done. Remember, you can't even do anything by your own. Everything is done by the God of this book. Remember. Ain't that what it says? It can't even get done. It can't even get done unless the Lord did it. That's what it says. That's what it says.
Yeah, can you know that? Yeah.
We can go back through them.
Yeah.
If anyone in your family, now this is paraphrasing, this is not the actual verse, but you can look the actual verse up yourself. It is Deuteronomy 13, 6 through 10. If anyone, even your family, suggests worshiping another God, you're supposed to do what?
Yeah.
If you find out a city worships a different God, you're supposed to do what? Destroy it, kill all of its inhabitants, even the animals. You're supposed to kill anybody with a different religion. That's what it says, right? That's not me saying it, right? So when you look upon Nigeria, when you look upon Congo, when you look upon, let me take it a different way. When you look upon the Yoruba religion, when you look upon Ifa, Odinani, the belief in Unkulunkulu, those is all false gods, idolatry, evil worship, right? And when you see that, this is what you're supposed to do. That's what the believers are supposed to do. Now, here I am telling you about African religions. Here I am daring to tell you the truth, not the mythology that converts have told people that live in Nigeria, but the original mythology that people in Nigeria call themselves Igbo believed in, right? Because, you know, the idea that Igbo people descend from a Hebrew lineage is new. That started in like the 1930s or something. People went back and started, hoping. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's a mythology that people adhere to. They heard the word Eri from the legend of the actual Igbo people. They heard the word and tied into it because there's a prince named Eri in the Bible. So of course, that's the prince that fled across the entire Sahara Desert all the way to Igbo land with his entire tribe. But in reality, we're talking about Chukwu. We're talking about how the Nsibidi symbols are the representation of the divine language from God. Which God? Chukwu. We're talking about how you're supposed to revere your ancestors. Education where? Before colonialism. We don't want to talk about, because if we talk about that, if I'm introducing you to different religions and different cultures. Brethren, Cause you snoring a little loud, bro, when we recording. If I'm introducing you to different cultures, what is the prescription for that? Yes. What do they say? If you find somebody else doing that.
Right.
Listen, the reason I did this, all the cameras on, Sister Queen, you got the camera on, I want to make sure everybody's catching this. The reason I'm doing this is because I see every year, specifically at Kwanzaa, all right? I'm going to use that as the example. When the sisters are at the front of the presentation and they pouring libation and they looking out into the crowd, wondering why more black people have not come. Brethren. Yeah, you going mad loud, cousin. Sorry, y'all. All right, so when the sister pours the libation in the front, that's a part of a cultural ritual, correct?
Right.
Now, if I'm participating in a cultural ritual that's not of the book, what is that? I can tell you what they told me. I can tell you what honest people who follow the book told me. They say it's idolatry, and I'm not coming to that because I don't believe in that. Idolatry is the word they use for the exact same things that they do. So when we talk about worshiping an idol, there is 0 people who went to a rock and worshiped the rock. Now, they may have thought that the rock represented a being, and therefore that was a pass-through, but the rock was never worshipped by anybody, right? In the same way, when you see the Ark of the Covenant with the cherubim and they wings out over it with the pole of cedar, right? The people weren't worshiping the box. That was Bethel. That was the house of God inside that box. Anybody looking at that would have thought, though, that was idolatry, right? Exactly. But the reality of it is, these people of this book stole other people's cultures, then demonized them for it, and killed them in the process, as you see. So here I am I'm trying. Mother Debbie, you know you've seen me out here trying to get people. And you asked me why black folks won't come. Part of the reason why I'm doing this presentation. Because when I ask people to come learn about the different spiritual religions that kept us protected through slavery, not the mythological religion that kept somebody else hope for the future in somebody else's system, but the system that kept our people through the roughest slavery in the history of mankind. The slavery and the oppression that's described in those books has nothing on the things that our people have faced. And yet and still, we carry over our culture to this day for those who want to know about it. But you got to want to know about it. All right. Like I said, this is not going to go very long. I had a couple slides I just wanted to touch on. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Getting back to the Shalem business. Now, very simply, Shalem, Shalim, was the god of that area. Patron gods are when you have a pantheon and areas take one of the pantheon as their patron god. Most times they still worship the other gods still too, but one of them is the main god of that area. In Jerusalem, Salem was that god. All right? How do we know that? Well, first of all, it was already known throughout antiquity. And if you look at the linguistics and etymology of it, you can follow it. That's not supposed to be right there, but that's okay. We'll get back to that. Here you go. Solomon, right? So the word Solomon comes from Salem, right? We got, sorry, I'm out of order right here, but that's okay. Going back to this one right here. You see right here, the Lord saith to Jerusalem, right? Thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Your father was an Amorite and their mother a Hittite. Now, when we talking about here, he's talking about the Israelites that's in Jerusalem at this point, right? Right? Right. So when he's talking, that's thus saith who? The Lord God. It ain't specific. They definitely talking about Yahweh. Adonai Yahweh. Right? Said unto the Israelites in Jerusalem, your father was an Amorite and your mother was a Hittite. What does that mean? That means your nativity is of the land of Canaan. That means your Israelites is Canaanites. Remember I said they taking other people's culture and doing the exact same thing, demonizing it and killing the people for it. That's exactly what happened. And what the issue is, the evidence is inside the book, but it's hidden in a way where it's not even really hidden. It's just remnants of things that was accidentally sort of brought along because didn't nobody think the Canaanites was ever going to get found. Salute, brother. How you doing?
Okay, so what was that?
Ezekiel 16.
Yes, and again, you can have this entire slide presentation, no worries. All right, so Zedek, the god Zedek, related to the Babylonian deity Ketu and Isar in the Amorite pantheon. Remember we talking about thy father is the Amorite and da-da-da, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. The god Zedek is related to the Phoenician god Siddiq, equated with Roman Jupiter. Roman Jupiter, we know, is represented by the actual Jupiter, right? As a matter of fact, right here you see these three images. One of these three images right here is the god Zedek. That is the god Shamash. Recognize that name? We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, I don't know if I can... At the very top there, over his head, you can see three symbols. I don't know if you can see it over the top of his head there, but it's the moon god, the sun god, and Venus. All right? Because all this was a pantheon. Everybody was dealing with a pantheon. The reason Shamash is important, I asked if y'all recognize it. It's okay, I'll tell you. Shamash is the god of Moab. When Israel and Moab had to fight, and Israel lost the war, right? The Mishnah Stele actually documents this, as well as I believe it's 2 Kings something. I'm sure Brother Judah know it, right? Back and forth. It admits the god Shamash beat the god Yahweh in the book, right? Because in the ancient world, it's nothing for gods to clash. It's nothing for gods to do this and that. But now, when you try and act like none of the other gods exist, you got to do some weaving. Because people have had these beliefs for literally hundreds and thousands of years. The god Zedek, again, appears in two people's names. Pretty important. Melchizedek and Adonizedek. Adonai, you can hear in the name, is Lord. Zedek is Lord. We just showed you Zedek in front of Shamash as one of the lesser beings of Shamash. And Shamash is one of the lesser beings of El Elyon. Okay, but so that lets you know that Zedek in this area was their patron deity at one point. Same with Melchizedek. My king is Zedek. Now, the word Zedek eventually tells you that it means righteousness. But that's later on when in the Hebrew language. It already was a god of righteousness. That's how if you just see that manipulation of linguistics alone, you see how we develop into turning the pantheon into this quote-unquote monotheistic religion when it's really not. Let's see, I think I had like one more slide. I'm not really even sure. Oh, yeah. We want to get into my guy Noah. So Galatians 4:24. We talking about Abraham, we talking about Isaac and Jacob, and all of the people, the old prophets, right? Back in the day. Well, we were just talking about the two, and he just mentioned in the womb, grabbing the heel, right? Mother Debbie, can you read that for me?
Which things are an allegory?
Allegory.
Yeah, allegory. For these are the two covenants. The one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Agar.
Right. So one free, one slave. This is Paul talking to the Galatians now. He's saying we are the people of the free one, right? That's what he's trying to get across to the Galatians. The issue is, though, he said the word allegory. That's the issue. An allegory means it's not necessarily true. It's a story told to illustrate a point that's not necessarily true. Again, another remnant of honesty that happened to end up in a book. Because in reality, two people in the same womb coming out and being two separate nations is actually ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
Ridiculous. Imagine having two sons. One come out Italian and one come out Zulu. I mean, it's not even conceivable biologically. Now, mind you, we always talk about how black women can have all types of different race. You know, we can have multiple different jobs. Yes, that can happen. But at that point, that's still a black child. Right? Now, that's how we get to this. They're talking about the two covenants. That story about the whole slave having two children becoming two things is an allegory. Now, I know some folks who don't believe in the New Testament, so this whole story wouldn't even matter to them. It's fine with me, right? However, this just shows you what New Testament theologians were thinking at the time. These folks have been spending way more time on it than me, trust me. All right, dealing with Noah. The absolute impossible journey of Noah. At that point, there was absolutely too much water. Okay? Where did it come from and where did it go? All right? Enough water to cover Mount Ararat, the tops of mountains. Okay. Where was it before that and where did it go? Too much heat. If it was under the ground, like some people suggest, or if it was in the firmament, like some people suggest, its release into the atmosphere would have caused too much heat. Everything would have boiled. When it's leaving, let's say, because it had to evaporate, the evaporation would have caused too much heat. Everything then would have boiled. So you're going to boil in the beginning and in the end of the entire flood. 2 by 2. I spelled 2 wrong. That's funny. Let's laugh at that. What about microscopic organisms? So we brought 2 of everything, every living thing. What about microscopic? What about he had 2 spiders, 2 roaches, 2 bed bugs. I'm serious. That's what the story tells me.
Oh, yeah.
2 butterflies, each kind of butterfly, 2 of each kind of fly, 2 of each kind of gnat. What about bacteria? There's all types of bad bacteria in the world, but it's stuff bacteria that we need. What about that? Now, you see penguins and kangaroo. That almost looks funny. But consider where he was in the world. Where would he have gotten a penguin and a kangaroo from? What you would have had to have done to get that. Think about that. Think about that. Too much weight. The boat that is described in the book is way too heavy to be seaworthy. Way too heavy. Out of the materials that was suggested, way too heavy. Too much time. At least, because I've heard people say that it wasn't quite just 40 days, it was more time because they still had to let vegetation grow back, etc. Okay, fine. At least they went 40 days and nights without eating or sleeping. You imagine sleeping next to a lion?
Yum, yum.
Imagine sleeping next to a lion and you're a goat or a bunny or any of the other things that was on the. How did they keep from eating them?
They'd be just less animals.
Right? Now, I actually heard somebody say that one day that, okay, it wasn't really 2 by 2, it was more, and they ended up saying 2 by 2 because some of the animals got ate. I definitely heard some, but see, you got to do all types of stuff to rationalize the fact that this makes absolutely no sense. Literally no sense. Too much salt. Freshwater sea life cannot survive in salt water. So while we're talking about all the land animals, what about the fish in the sea? While the water levels rose, the mixing of the waters would cause all the water to be salt water. Every freshwater sea life would die and literally never come back. The vegetation on the land would never grow back. I spelled grow wrong. Hilarious. Would never grow back in salt. We talking about planting. You agriculturalists, can you grow plants in salt water? No, of course not. Of course not. It's ridiculous. So if you saturate the entire planet with salt water, let's just say the water disappeared. Let's say it just magically disappeared. It's still damp, right? The ground's still saturated. Nothing's growing back in there. Nothing. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Somebody in Kentucky actually rebuilt the ark, where you can go in as a museum. Really? You see the size of the people? Right. You see a couple people up there going in the door there? Right. Now, look at that. Just look at that. This is built by the dimensions described in the book, because they're very serious about proving the fact that that happened. All right? They have dinosaurs living with people in there and all types of different things that you have to believe if you believe in the mythology of the book. When in reality, look, you could tell by just looking at that would not be seaworthy if it was built to the best specs. Real quick, and I'm gonna stop. How do we know that the people in the book are black? Everybody goes to Revelation and talk about this quote right here. Woolly hair, feet like brass, right? Eyes like wool. Where do you think they got the whole description from? The place that my favorite folks hate to go to. My folks, they hate, oh no, the rabbinic writings, the Talmud? No, I don't follow that. I only follow the King James. Well, the rabbinic Talmudic writings is what tells you about the curse of Ham and the fact that Ham and the Hamites and the Canaanites are actually the darker skinned people of the world. That's where it comes from. It doesn't say it in the Bible. It says it in the Talmud. It says that because Ham had sex with a dog, he's dark skinned. My bad, maybe y'all can't see it. It says, where the dark and ugly, Ham and the dog he copulated with in the ark was punished.
As in a four-legged dog?
A dog. They saying that Ham was cursed, the whole Hamitic curse, the foundation of it. It comes from them saying that Ham performed bestiality with a dog. And
who was
that,
the they?
I'm sorry?
Who was the they?
The people that wrote the Bible. The Talmud, these are the rabbis. This is the Talmud. This is where you get the whole Hamitic curse from. Okay? You don't even get the term, you know how you hear people say the dark-skinned races? Ham is the dark-skinned races, right? That's not in the book. They get it from the Talmud. So when you hear people repeating stuff that they heard, ask them where you get it from. Most times they can't tell you. Trust me, I've asked.
Canaanites were black?
Huh?
Canaanites, were they black?
We can discuss that.
I mean, you should know.
Is that in the book?
Show me everything.
Is it in the book?
No, you showed me.
Hold on, you got a couple.
It does not say it in the Bible.
Were they black?
In the Old Testament or New Testament.
Do you think it was black from the history you showed?
It's literally irrelevant. And I'm going to show you why it's irrelevant.
So Marcus Garvey's theory is irrelevant?
Listen, there's several things he was wrong on.
Wow.
There were several things he was wrong on. Let's deal with this, though.
Okay.
Let's deal with the fact that the Hamitic hypothesis, the curse of Ham being black, comes from the rabbis saying that the darker skinned people had sex with dogs. That's what they're going with. Then they're going and say, because they ain't finished, they're not finished, they say, as for Ham, because he saw with his eyes the nakedness of his father, his eyes became red. And because he spoke with his mouth, his lips became crooked. Now, what does crooked mean there? What are they talking about?
Like the serpent, they try to say he told lies.
A physical description. Fat lips.
Oh.
Who got fat lips?
Say that again that way.
Who got fat lips? Let's see, here we go. Where we at? His lips became crooked, and because he turned his face, the hair of his head and his beard became singed. Uh-oh. Why does they say singed? What does that mean?
Great.
What happened when you burn a hair?
Velcro.
It curl up.
Yeah,
Velcro.
Who got curly hair?
yeah.
What's that description in Revelation? His hair is curly like wool, his eyes red like fire. Remember? Huh? Then they also said something that's real interesting. And because he did not, remember, this is how we know they was talking about black people. Remember this. Hey. Respect, listen, I respect y'all, the sisters in the room. Don't be mad at me. All right? If you want, you plug your ears. Because he did not cover his father's nakedness, he went naked and his prepuce became stretched. Now, what in the world is a prepuce? You know what it is. We're not going to mention it. You know what it is. You know the what's it called? The stigma, right, that black men have, huh? Okie dokie. The reason that people hate black people, a certain group of men hate black men when they see us going in our nakedness. Let me ask you something. In Africa, ain't it like a 90 degrees all the time? Check. Most of us in Africa weren't necessarily wearing what we would consider clothes. So what did you see when you rolled up on a group of men? His prepuce. And if, I didn't put it in here, if you have an unusually elongated prepuce, you could not preach in the temple. I didn't put it up here, but we can get into it. Anybody want to discuss it with me? This is where they get that from. Right? Now, it's multiple other things that is the foundation of a lot of this, the teachings that we hear. You know what I mean? And then they will never get back to the rabbinic teachings that they got it from, right? They know, because they can't tell you that that's where this piece comes from. Real quick, since I only got a couple seconds left to answer that quick question, whether I think that they was black or not, we can look at the map and we can go through the history of people and the way people and humanity moved throughout history. We can see who was in the land of Canaan at the time when it happened. And it wasn't necessarily African people. At a certain point throughout the migration of humanity, when Africa was the beginning of all people. So once you get to Russia, at a certain point, they stop being African. Check.
Yeah, it's so much. First place, who are the white people? Those white people talking about that beautiful black man?
Say again?
That's not ugly. Turn back to that other black man. Do we think it's ugly? I don't need God to be black. Timothy, brother. I don't need God to be black. If he's black, I accept that. I don't need God to be white. He's white, I accept that. I never dislike my black skin. Is that ugly? Is that ugly? So these white people that talk about our black people, these Jews that the rabbis talking about our black people, do that look ugly to us? Now they want to make it ugly. But that's not ugly. Big, fat, juicy lips, fiery eyes that can see through light and darkness the same. Someone whose great beard been around for ancient of days. I mean, Elohim, if he's black, so let it be. But he has proven to us that Canaanites were black people. I'll tell you, Ham was a dark man. Now, what was the real curse in the word of Yahweh? Why Ham? Why Ham was cursed? It didn't even say Ham was cursed. It was his young son, Kenaiah. And Kenaiah came and saw his father's nakedness. And among us in Hebrew, to see my father's nakedness, it means to have an affair with my father's wife. Did it happen? It can happen. It happens today. Black people, white people have affairs with their mothers and with their fathers. So something Cain did. And God didn't curse those black people. He only cursed Cain. And Cain ended up inheriting the promised land before Israel inherited the promised land. So black is just what it is. And you read the Bible, nowhere in the world you think there are white people unless you look at white paintings. Nothing is white about the Bible. Nothing whatsoever when you really study. In fact, when you study the word of Elohim, the course it is, I don't know where the white man came from. Now, I can tell you black people, from reading the Bible, now if I would go by Yahweh's word, black people turned white because something was wrong. Every black man was to look at a white person and stay away from them because they were hit with a curse of being white, leprosy. So when you look at a white person, a real profound black person who's into the true living Elohim backs away from it. In fact, white people in the Bible had to tell every black nation, I'm white because of a disease. And black people who was all over the world will back away from it. Now, let me go back to something you showed. Yahweh said kill. That was only to a people that belong to Yahweh. Yahweh said, now I call you out from all the people of the world. If you have idolatry among you, y'all kill one another for that. You couldn't cross over and mess with no one else. You got to leave everybody else alone. But when you become exclusively Yahweh, Yahweh expects you to be a unique person. Don't you let idolatry come before you. But the other nations can have idolatry. Israel could not cross over in another country that Yahweh did not give to them and kill anybody. Because Yahweh said kill. He's written, thou shalt not kill. He meant that.
Bridget,
Yahweh
can you just say
kill
that?
anybody he wants to.
Can you just say that again?
Israel was not allowed to cross over and mess with other nations and kill them unless Yahweh wanted that particular land. But the Canaanites was very special to Yahweh. How no? Melchizedek was there. What was Melchizedek doing in the land of Canaan? Anybody know?
Worshiping Zedek.
Teaching them to worship the true and living Elohim. And when the man came that Elohim chose, Melchizedek met him. When Melchizedek met him, Melchizedek was so in tune with Yahweh, he blessed Abraham. Abraham turned around and said, I'm going to give you tithes. Even Yeshua told the Jews in this time when they really didn't know who he was, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he said, and he saw it and was glad. The Jews said to Yeshua, man, you ain't even 50 years old. Have you seen Abraham? Now this is the one people want to go off there. Yeshua told the Jews before Abraham was, I am. They picked up stones to get ready to kill him. Because he said before Abraham was, I'm really Yahweh. They said, oh, you crazy now, we're going to kill you. Now, Israel is not allowed to go and kill nobody unless Yahweh says do it. Now, Yahweh can do anything he wishes to do. He created the shark, the net. But he can kill and bring somebody back alive. We can't. I don't like Yahweh because he told another people, wipe out another people. That's your problem. You'll die, grow older, you'll get amnesia and forget about it. Yahweh do whatsoever he pleases, whether men and women like it. It makes no difference with him. He's the creating king of the universe. Was Yahweh black? Yeshua was black. He came from the tribe of Judah. And it's a known fact that Judah married into the Canaanite line. So I just want you to know when Yahweh do something, he do it very well. Malik, Zadik, well, king of righteousness. He was teaching the Canaanites the true living God, but they walked away from it. Now listen, about the flood. The earth was relatively young. There was not a lot of people on planet Earth at that time, neither a lot of animals. I guess what the world was about, what? Maybe. That wasn't quite 2,000 years old yet.
What?
Migrations of animals didn't happen all over the world as of yet. It was young. Population on earth was young. And when Yahweh says something, he can hold something together. Listen, how heavy do you think the sun is? Let's get off of the sun. If you would have an estimation, how heavy is the moon? I mean, mathematically we can't. How does it sit in one place and don't drop? As heavy it is. When Yahweh is into something, he can hold up everything. He's the creating king of the universe. Was the boat worthy of the sea? Yahweh held it up. That's what you got to look at. You got to look at the creating king of the universe. Now, don't get me wrong. White form of Christianity has hurt the black man. But black people were weak before they got here. How? The white man went over there and got us. How in the world you can come into my country, my land, and bring me, reduce me to slavery unless I'm already a weak person? And we don't want to admit that we're has-beens. Whenever you are great and you're not great anymore, you better explain why you became weak. Because I don't care how great you are, you can lose it just like that. And so we teach how great we were, what we did. What made we think that religion was right? Just like Christianity wasn't right. In many forms by the white man. Christianity is a Jewish religion. It's not a white man's religion. And you put white people in it. For an example, servants obey your masters. That's what you brought out, right? Then Yeshua told those masters, you better believe you got a master in heaven. You better love them as I love you. Now imagine white people having us as slaves for some reason, and they did it wrong. And they were true Christians. Yahweh said, you better take care of them, because I'm your master in heaven. Imagine a person who owns me, love me as they love themselves. What they do to us? What they did to us?
Exactly.
They were not Christians. There were two forms of Christianity. One from Rome, white man. One from Jerusalem, black man. And blacks have always hurt one another. Ain't nothing to do. Blacks held people as slaves. Maybe not in the great degree as white people held us as slaves. But he always do whatsoever he pleases. And that make you respect him. Now, black is beautiful. I asked a person, was the Canaanites black? What do you say?
Honestly, nobody knows.
Well, the way you teach it and what I've seen, Canaanites are black.
Oh, I mean, if you follow what I'm showing you, honestly, probably not.
Were they white?
No.
Well, what were they?
They were what you would call the Arabs today.
Then you cannot bring black pride to us if you don't let us know the Canaanites is black, because you don't brought to us how great they were being black people. The question is, when they was worshiping their gods,
No, I don't think you.
how black they are?
I don't think you understand what I was saying.
Oh, I did. Well, to me, I would say, man, you so true. The Canaanites were black. Now, why God didn't curse Ham? He cursed his younger son.
He sure
and
did.
Why? Just like we'll sit back and knock the daylights out of our son, if we find him trying to go in there and having a flea, that's all we're doing. In the world, son, what are you doing in my room? What are you doing looking at my wife? So, there's nothing wrong with being black. Black is beautiful. It's wonderful. So, was Adam black?
I don't believe that person existed, sir. Like, you have
How
to.
can we have black pride in us unless we know the first black man was black?
Well, like I told you. Well, I'm not going to respond. Go ahead. Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
All right. So when you go way back and say, where did the white man come from? I would say from lion to a prophet. And Elisha looked back and said to him, the leprosy that was upon Naaman is going to be upon you and your clan for always. Now, I can say that for a minute, but it don't mean it's necessarily true. But I do know one thing, a white man did exist, and you always say, not only would it be upon you, but for the rest of your life it would be upon your children. Were white people violent? Yeah. Were we that weak to accept them hurt us? Yes. Is Yahweh a man of weakness? No. He's describing, I believe in the 15th chapter of the book of Exodus, I'm a man of war. You don't come and mess with my people. And the only reason why black people went into slavery the way we did, we were defeated people already, and some weak-minded idolatry. And idolatry means you worship something that is not real. And Yahweh told Israel, I'll back away from you. I'll leave you out here and you'll be like all the other nations. I'll take my hedge away from you. They'll come in and ravish your wife and your children. He warned them, if you start acting like other nations that don't know me, you're going to lose my protection. And even you're going to start being your worst enemy. So all I'm trying to say is that there's nothing wrong with being black. We are black. If we stick to the topic, how religion hurt us as black people, I'll tell you how. Christianity became a religion of idolatry. The same thing African people were doing, the white people were doing. Zeus and the gods that the Nordic gods worship, they were worshiping in the land of Canaan. They just drifted that way. We just did it first. And the white man got from us. But if we stay positively on the mindset, how did Christianity hurt us as black people? I'll tell you how. It was all a lie. Everything about Yeshua was a lie. That concept about heaven and hell was a lie. That concept about Satan was a lie. But true Christianity promotes and lifts up Elohim's people. They just happen to be black. White people, only thing white about Christianity is pain. And their version of slavery, and not us learning what slavery is all about in the right way. So I'm here to say, let's stick to how religion hurt us as a black people. We'll walk away from it every time. And we will not be victorious until we get out of the white man's religion. When we get back to the religion that Yahweh gave us, we'll be a very prominent people. And let me tell you something too. You think Marcus Garvey was going to make it in the land of the enemy?
Say that again?
You think white people were going to let Marcus Garvey make it in the land of the enemy? They would be a fool to let a black man get their bacon in their own land. That's a foolish thought. You're in the land of your enemy. Yahweh didn't give Israel greatness until he brought them out of the land of their enemy. And Yahweh told Israel, a lot of days, I'm going to bring you out of the land of your enemy. You cannot be great in your land of the enemy. You just got to overcome. And the way you overcome a white man, don't take his religion. Don't take his concept about life. If keeping us down means keeping us in poverty, we're going to be defeated. If you learn to be righteous in poverty, we'll support one another no matter what. The best thing you and I can do is get out of the form of Christianity that came from Rome, who only tolerate us but don't celebrate us. If we get out of that and get back in our true religion, we'll be great eating cornbread and beans. We'll be great patches all over ourselves. We get in our right religion, we'll be great. If, I don't know, we'll be great. Because we won't hurt and take from one another because we have a high calling. And our high calling is to look forward to the age to come. We will live to live again in riches. We'll live to live again in poverty. We'll look at those that hate us and don't try to join them. Ain't nowhere in the world, if you're my enemy, I got you in my land, I'm going to give you free. I'll kill you every time. We need God. And the only way we're going to need God, we got to study Christianity from the Bible viewpoint and not for the white man told us. That's the only way we're going to be. Ain't nowhere in the world I'll let any black man, if I'm your enemy, come to my house and give you everything so you can rise above me. You got to get out of my house. The only way we're going to escape sickness here, we got to be helped by Elohim. Until he comes, then you better get a mind to overcome. And then stop hurting one another. Brother, what you believe in? Stop hurting one another. One thing bring us together, we black, and white people ain't black people. That alone, not religion, should bring us together. I got one more minute?
You do. I
Great day in the morning.
Great day in the morning. You sure?
Black people are great.
That's true.
Make no mistake about it.
That's true.
Everything that happened to us, the Indians, white people, wiped out. Ain't nobody was out. You can't. We got protection. We just don't know how true we can be if we get right. And you can gather all you want to do. As long as you're in white man's country, he'll be a fool if he let you get ahead of him. If I got you in chains, you think I'm going to set you free? You got to get out of, you got to come away from my influence. That's why you don't see Muslims in court that much. You don't see Chinese in jail because they do not mimic Christianity. Christianity from Rome was never designed to be a way of learning. It burned in hell, false teaching. Concept of heaven, false teaching. There's a lot of truth in the Bible, though. But when Yahweh get into something, he upholds everything. And he was in Noah's ark, upholding all the animals.
My sister, you might be on the camera real quick. I got 5 minutes. I'm going to try and run through it real fast. I just need you to answer this one question. Remember in the beginning you asked where is something leading you?
Yes.
Where are you right now? Are you in the land of your enemy?
Am I in the, yes.
According to what the brother said, you got any chance of success?
Yes, I do have.
According to what he just said.
According to what
In the land of the enemy, there's no chance of success. That's what the brother just said, right?
That's what he said.
That's what he said. So, as far as where it's being led to, right now, we still have yet to hear it dealing with that doctrine. To understand, we got to stop playing with it. Okay, the reality of it is a circular reasoning that leads you nowhere. The brethren, now family, I know you and I have only just met. Me and Sister Esther, I know her for a long time. She knows that I'm a Garveyite to the core. Several people in this room knows that I'm a Garveyite to the core.
Oh, yeah.
If ever, I hear you, if ever there was a thing that you should never do with me is ever question my blackness or my seriousness in teaching black history or black culture. When I tell you about the legend of Eri being the first man on the planet, I'm telling you that the first man was black in the heart of Negro land. The first man was black. The resistance to catch that the first time is because this is idolatry and an evil doctrine, and you really don't want to hear this. The reality of it is, according to what you just said, these people were weak already. The reason they got enslaved because they were weak already, and they were following something that was not Yahweh already. And that's why they were enslaved, righteously so. They deserved to be enslaved because they were not worshiping the God of that book. Now, I'm going to show you how the reason Nigeria fell, specifically the Igbo people, but you can go to Yoruba and the rest of West Africa, was because people that believed in this doctrine did exactly what you said. They went to another land proclaiming that their deity said that this whole thing should be understanding that we all should be under the same, everything you just said. That same wonderful preaching you just did, You should see the responses you're getting on Facebook. Okay? You were preaching for a minute. The reality of it is, when people heard that back in the day, they had an understanding of religious brotherhood. The people of this time, remember I told you it was peaceful. You told them they shouldn't have been peaceful.
Hold on.
And that's why they fell, because they was peaceful. But what happened was they thought that because these other people came pretending to be religious, pretending to be spiritual brothers, they had him. They tried to open up a relationship with them, a trade relationship with them. And what happened was they got enslaved for it because they believed of their book. Their book, the first ones, was the third iteration, the Muslims. Right? Originally, they was the first ones to come down there and decimate. The next ones was the Christians, and they all believed the same book. Everything that you just said, Yahweh is a war God. And if God tells you that you can go to somebody else's land and take it, you can. Everything you just said. So you see why they went there and took them people. Also, you see why if it happens again, no disrespect, but the brethren will sit there and be watching it. Because it's supposed to happen. If it happens again, followers of this book will sit there and watch it because it's supposed to happen. If I'm not, look, you see this? This is not of the Bible. The fact that I hold on to this and then I adhere to this is idolatry according to what he was just saying. Brother, hold on one second. I'm trying to run through this. I got 2 minutes. He's saying it now, but trust me, this is because he don't know what this symbol means. As soon as he know what it is, trust me, it's idolatry according to that book. Right? The moment you are educated on what this symbol is, now you get a chance to hate it. Now you get a chance to separate from it. That's why you don't see people at these Kwanzaa things. That's why you don't see people coming together for no real black events. That's why you see fraudulent organizations running around here with the red, black, and green, not teaching about Garvey. Have no idea what Garvey was about. They tried to get Garvey to say, oh, this should be a Israelite division. The person who wrote the national anthem for the UNIA was Rabbi Josiah Ford. Okay? One of the biggest heroes in black history, Israelite history. All right? I can't even think of everybody. We had the black Christian movement. Right now they got the Shrine of the Black Madonna. That comes out of the UNIA. Nation of Islam, that come out of the UNIA. All of those different black movements come out of the UNIA. Instead of holding fast to we are unified because of race first, they separated and said something about some silly mythology that somebody else gave them. The brethren said that there's no white people in the Bible. However, we just talked about Paul and the Galatians. We know that that's a Roman. Those are white people. We know it. We know that, yes, I just told you that those people weren't necessarily African. They weren't. Just like they not right now. You go to Egypt right now, they not African. Just because they live there don't mean that's what they doing. What you want to say while I got 30 seconds?
No, I was just saying, like, yeah, some of the students at UD were talking about your chapter, UNIA, whatever, Garvey, and yes, and a lot of black people in the black community don't know a lot about it, don't know your chapter exists, at least from the people that I'm talking to, but I want to learn more. And what else I was going to say? Yeah, it's almost kind of giving this perception of being like black militant, being like a black militant, or being like black supremacy. I heard somebody, a really prominent person, who say something about black supremacy. I'm like, what is that? So I want to learn more. So anyway.
Real quick answer to what you just said. The whole black supremacy idea and we're just too militant and too radical thing, that's a fraud. That's a front. Remember earlier I just told you the reason the land deal fell in Liberia was because of the NAACP and W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay, black hierarchy, black Christians, okay, undermined the move because he was talking about linking us with our African culture. And they still held to the fact that we shouldn't be holding to that because that's idolatry and that's evil. Anything African is evil. Anything black is evil. These people, the brethren just told you, these people was weak-minded, and the reason white folks could come over there was because they was weak and they was following their ancestral faiths.
Why did they conquer us? Why did the white man come?
Because they felt like they held.
They conquer us unless we were too weak to hold them off. That's common sense.
I literally just told you, bro.